Oh, hello, hello. Hello. This is Devin Young with the Young Investments Property Management. I am interviewing today a colleague of mine, Miss Tiffany Ward. How are you today?
Doing well, Devin. Thanks for having me on. How's everything going with
Awesome,
you?
awesome. Everything is great. I appreciate you jumping on today, taking time to share your experiences in this great real estate market. So I'm not going to take up a lot of time, but I want to hear your story and kind of see what's going on with you and what you're planning to do in this market.
So for me, I do a mix of things, and I've tried a little bit. Now, I won't say a little bit of everything, but I've dabbled here and there in my investing journey, and I've kind of settled mostly on multifamily investing and then private money lending. So I got started. I like to say I got started with my first house. I bought my first house at 23. It was a foreclosure HUD home. My sister happened to live three doors down. She knew I was looking for a home, and she said, "Hey, look at this house on the corner." And so I checked it out. I put in an offer, and I didn't know back then. I wasn't savvy. My realtor, honestly, at the time, wasn't that savvy either. But I put in an offer that was actually above their asking price, just trying to make sure that I got it. I didn't need to do that in reflecting back, but I did. I won the house. I'm actually still in the house today, but that was kind of my first purchase, my first home purchase. Once I got the house, I got really scared that I wasn't going to be able to make the mortgage payments. So I got two more jobs and I asked my best friend to move in with me. So before I knew what house hacking was, I was kind of house hacking, right? I had moved my girlfriend in to help me pay the bills. And, I just worked like crazy to make sure that I could pay everything that I needed to pay. So that was kind of my first venture. I didn't buy another home until many years later, I would say 4 or 5 years later. I was married at the time, and I purchased a townhome. And back then, I had started to listening to Bigger Pockets and different podcasts like that. So I knew that I could get 10 homes in my name. And my spouse at the time said, "Hey, we'll just put this in your personal name so that you can get your 10, and then I'll continue to buy properties in my name so that he can get his 10," right? So that's a great way for couples to scale up their portfolio. Your spouse does not have to be on the loan. They can be on the deed, but they don't have to be on the loan in order for you to get those properties. And so that was really my next venture. That worked out to my favor because I did end up splitting from that spouse. So less headache, less paperwork, right, on the divorce process. But I would say that that was my second venture. And then somewhere around 2018, I said, "Hey, I really want to get focused. I want to scale up my portfolio." So in 2018, I bought a duplex. Again, I had a tenant in the bottom and I lived in the top. So a lot of these first properties, I was only putting 3.5, 5% down. So even though I already had other properties, because time had passed and because I was renting them out, I was able to get owner occupied loans and debt structures. So that really helped me to get a few properties under my belt. In 2019, through a mentor that I sought out, I was able to get my first 10 unit, my first true multifamily property. And ever since then, I've kind of been focusing on multifamily. So that was right during COVID. I would say we bought it in 2019, and then COVID hit in 2020. So obviously there were a lot of challenges that we faced during that time frame with tenants not paying. Obviously a lot of them couldn't pay because the country was shut down. Some tenants moved out in the middle of the night. So we had to bring some capital to the table to keep the deal afloat. And so that was a good lesson learned as well, that, a lot of people think that you can do these deals with no money and low money. The truly creative people, yes, you can do it. But I would say when you're holding properties, you need a little bit of liquidity, you need a little bit of capital in your back pocket for the unexpected, right? Nobody could see COVID coming. Obviously, we don't anticipate anything like that happening again, hopefully. But it was good to be able to have the money so that we didn't have to foreclose or fire sale the property or anything like that. So from there, I started to invest passively as well. So as a limited partner, In multifamily syndications, that's much larger deals, 30 units, 50 units, 100 units. Sky's the limit as to how many units those can go up to. But I started to invest passively as well because I do still work full time. Um, and, I just wanted to continue to allow my money to work for me as I was working. And I was a new mom at the time and, still kind of coming off the heels of COVID, stuff like that. I just wanted to kind of invest passively as well. I'm a firm believer that some of your investments should be active. So that those joint ventures that I did, any single family properties that you might own and manage, maybe you're managing your stock portfolio and you're actively in there trading options or futures or something like that. There's a percentage of your money that should be active, and then there's some investments that should be passive. And those dollars ideally should work for you while you're sleeping, while you're working your other job, while you're having family time, or whatever that thing might be. So that's kind of how I got started. I don't know if that's a good launch pad for any additional questions that you have, but today, I am a multifamily investor still. I still hold some single family properties as well. And then I do some private money lending. I've also done a little bit of Airbnb. I've done some renovation projects on the single family side. So kind of a mixed bag. I haven't done any wholesaling. I've looked at it. I put a little bit of time into it, but wasn't really committed to that. And no new developments for me yet, but that is a goal of mine down the road. So I'll pause there.
Okay, well, you are doing a lot. That's amazing. Definitely congratulations on all of your success and the things you've done. Definitely COVID has been a challenge. Even now, it's still sometimes hard to collect rent from tenants. But from what it sounds like, you own 12 to 14 units individually or on your own, and then you've invested into some syndication. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, whew, I kind of somewhere along the way, somebody told me like it's not the number of doors, it's really the cash flow. But yeah, I
Absolutely.
mean, the doors would be somewhere around 100, so not a whole lot in the grand scheme of what some people, and again, I shouldn't compare, but there are people who
That's a
own
lot.
thousands of
Thousands
doors.
of dollars.
But I would
Absolutely.
say, yeah, I am
So
a
what do you
full owner. Go ahead.
so what do you do for a living?
I'm in sales, so I'm in IT, kind of data center sales. I was
Okay.
previously an engineer. I've held a number of roles since I've been in the working field, but all have been around IT. So I was a project manager at one point. I was a server admin. I did some technical writing, and now I'm in the sales field.
And I heard you say that you a newly mom. How old is your child?
Not new anymore. He's getting so big. So he's four. Four going on 14, maybe going on 40. He is super smart. We're preparing for kindergarten. So he'll start that in August. And he just it's amazing how much kids know, how quickly they learn, how fast they grow. And so, really, a lot of what I do, you talk about your why. A lot of people, in order to be truly successful, you have to have a good why, a good reason as to why you're doing all this. And my son is truly my why, as is the case for a lot of parents. Oftentimes I want to make life for him accessible. Obviously give him a better future and give him a better life than what I had. And, the same thing that my parents did for me and their parents did for them. Right. So, really the reason I do all this is for my son. So,
That's dope. That is absolutely amazing. So I heard a lot of things in your conversation. Uh, and again, this is why I do this because it gives me an opportunity really to learn about people on a
yep.
personal basis. And then allow people to share their stories that, everybody thinks that you have to be doing something crazy to own 100 doors. And it really is just kind of learning and being able to underwrite and understand how deal flow works. And so I want to get into that a little bit. Um, you said that you bought your first couple houses and then you bought a 10 unit and then you passively invested. How, what does that process look like for you and how did you make a determination on what properties to passively invest in? First,
Mm,
before that, what markets are you in? Because a lot of people that does make a difference in matter. So where
ooh,
are you
yeah.
currently investing? Where are you located and where are you investing?
Sorry. Yes, I am in Richmond, Virginia. I invest, I would say, mostly on the east side of the Americas. So I would say Virginia, North Carolina, Alabama,
Okay.
and I've done some things in like Maryland. So I'm currently working on something in Maryland that I can't really discuss. Um, so I would say mostly East Coast of the
Okay.
US. Yep.
Cool. So, so is that just based on the availability to get to those areas, or is there something particular about that market that you
Yeah, I think it's both. I think a lot of the connections that I've made have been um on this side of the country. So, when I got started, that first mentor was local and then he had a presence in North Carolina. And so that was how I kind of bridged into North Carolina. I was able to walk that property, I was able to talk to the sellers. Go through the inspection phase. So it was not necessarily in my backyard, but it was close enough that I could drive it and go see it. And that made a big difference to me because for that first multifamily deal, I still wanted to kind of see it and touch it. The subsequent deals after that, the passive deals, I have never been to. So,
like?
there's a deal in Alabama, there's other deals in North Carolina. I've never been there to see and touch those properties. And I think I came across those deals through networking. So, as you get into investing, it's important that you surround yourself with like minded individuals. There are all types of meetups that happen pretty much daily and weekly that you can go to build these relationships, and they're in person and they're virtual. So, I started to attend meetups. And most of those were going to be virtual meetups. I went to a couple of conferences and seminars where you network in Zoom rooms, right? And you meet a lot of people on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever that is, and you just have these repeated conversations where you build relationship. And so from that, because I knew and I had started to invest significant time into multifamily research, I wanted to stay kind of in that wheelhouse, right? I didn't want to differentiate just yet into storage units or RV parks or oil and gas or any of the other investment vehicles that are out there. I kind of took the time to do a deep dive into the multifamily space. And so I felt comfortable with the numbers and the underwriting that you spoke about. And then also, like I said, building those relationships with those operators. And so that's really what led me to invest passively and into markets that were not necessarily in my backyard. And also at the time, I didn't have the capacity as a newer mom back then. Um, I was still working. I still had my son. And during COVID, a lot of the daycares weren't open. So the first year, my son was home with me, and I did have a little bit of help, but for the most part, we weren't talking to people and taking our kids anywhere ourselves. So that first year was a blessing, and that my kiddo could be home with me, but it was difficult to try to um, manage work, my W-2 job, and then also try to be a mom, and then also try to look for properties and be an active operator. So for me, I made the choice to be passive during those years and just kind of trust someone else to steer the ship. And, I think that's crucial for a lot of people. A lot of people think that they have the time and they really don't, right? They like, you're putting too much on your plate, and you have to sometimes step back and let those people who have the skills and the time and the resources kind of help you move your money. So that was my stance on that. It really was trust in those operators and those teams. It was knowledge of the market, and it was just me taking a real look at my capacity and what I could handle during those times.
That's amazing. So passive investing is one of the things that I have not gotten into. I'm a little control freak. I've been in real estate for 20 years, so I definitely try to be hands-on. Not sure I'll ever get into passive investing. I think I'll probably always be a GP on most of my deals,
Mm,
unless I really find somebody that I truly trust and believe they know what they're doing. So that's still kind of one of those fear point or sticking points for me. I haven't gotten to a place where I'm willing to invest my money with nobody.
yeah, it takes a long time to get there, but I think, there are several ways that you could vet your potential sponsors, right? Like
Absolutely.
obviously, phone calls and conversations like this, It's background checks, credit checks, making sure they're not fraudulent. It's referrals. It's asking them, hey, tell me about your past deals. How many have gone full cycle, meaning from purchase to subsequent sale? And then it's a thorough look at the underwriting and making sure you feel confident in their underwriting, that it's conservative or aggressive as fits your risk profile. And then, like for me, I get a lot of peer reviews. So I will ask other mentors, I'll ask peers, hey, look at this. What do you think? What are the red flags? What additional questions should I ask? Just to make sure that, anything that I miss, they pick up for me and help me to make solid decisions. So I think it just takes some time, but I also think that a lot of us are control freaks, right? Because we have these type A personalities and we are entrepreneurs and, we want to have our hands on the steering wheel. But I think as you look at your overall wealth picture, ideally you want to have more and more freedom for yourself, right? You want to create more and more time freedom or location freedom or whatever that is, freedom of resources. And sometimes that means that somebody else is driving it. So for me, that's why I like kind of a tiered approach to my investments. I still invest in the stock market. I still invest like a private money lender, which is somewhat passive. I put some time and energy into underwriting those deals, and then I let the flippers kind of do their thing and get my money back. So I don't have to run to the property and manage contractors every day. And then I do the passive multifamily. I'm looking into oil and gas, but it just you can't manage it all. So you just got to pick and choose your
Yeah,
battles.
absolutely. And I think you're doing a phenomenal job at it. It's not a whole lot of young people that are actively investing and doing the things that you're doing, which is why I wanted to bring you on to learn more about your story, what you were doing. What is it that you would tell people that are new to this space? What is it that they should really be looking for, and what should they be doing?
Oof. I think education is key, and I think a coach or a mentor speeds up that timeline. So I've been in several coaching programs, had some mentors, and my mentor at the time is who got me into that 10 unit deal where we actually, I don't know, 2.3, 2.4x our money. So a lot of people say, oh, it's dangerous to invest with your mentors. I would say making sure, again, that they have similar risk tolerance and that your core values and principles align. For me, that was a great relationship to build and great for my pockets, right? And really helped to give me that experience that I can now take into the marketplace when I talk to brokers, when I look at these multifamily deals to say, hey, I have experience here. I've signed on these loans. I've done these types of deals before, and so that really propelled me into the deals that I'm able to do today. So I would say definitely getting a mentor or coach. And then I would say just educating yourself as much as possible. So sometimes the mentoring and the coaching kind of come packaged together. A lot of these coaches now, they have modules where they pre-recorded it or give you a lot of documentation that you can go through at your own pace. You also have to know what type of learner you are, because if you're not a self-paced learner and you need like an in-person class, then that dictates what type of mentor or coach you get. So you have to have some sense of self and what you need. I would also just say baby steps. I think sometimes just a basic fundamental understanding of money and how things work is important. And then, I always talk to people who are trying to prepare to invest in multifamily, because multifamily does take a good amount of capital. And so some people have to save up for that. So it's understanding the different sources of where the money can come from, which is, an inheritance. It could be your 401k or IRA dollars. It could just be savings, right? Understanding the best vehicles to save those resources. So a lot of people are using traditional banks. We shouldn't do that. We need to go to where we can get the better interest rates for our money to just be sitting there, where we can get 4 and 5%. And then, where do you move your money from there? Is stock market the better investment right now for you, because you can consistently get 8 to 10% returns, right? Historically, if you follow the S&P, it's going up 8 to 10% like every year, right? So that might be a good move for you if you want to stick your money somewhere and just let it kind of work for you. And then when you're ready, you diversify as your knowledge allows you to. So I would say that's my advice. Get a coach or a mentor, understand the basics of money, and just that you are slowly but surely kind of stacking it up and saving it and getting some interest accruing on it, and then being smart about your investments from there.
And that's amazing. So, with that being said, I know a lot of people are quick to jump into this space and they don't have capital. They're expecting, I guess, money to fall out of the sky. I know some things. For a multifamily, to be in the multifamily space and to really play at a high level or even at an entry level, what do you think would be the minimal amount of money that you should have when you get into the space?
Oof. Passively, passively 50K. 50K.
50K.
There are some people out here, some deals out here that will let you come in with less. I probably shouldn't say that, ooh, but sometimes you can get in with a little bit less, but I would say that that's the standard. Um, 50K is going to be the standard. Actively, and I'm sorry, if you're a passive investor, that should not be your last dollar because these deals are risky. There's risk involved in investing, and you might not get your money back. So you should only invest what you're comfortable to lose. And a lot of people, that's uncomfortable to hear that, but that is the reality. So I wouldn't invest your last, but definitely 50K that you can afford to lose is what you have to come to the table with. And then as an active investor, like if you wanted to be on that GP, that general partner side, that person who is leading the deal, operating in the deal, that's tough to say. Because typically most general partners, they invest alongside their investors. So they're putting their 50K into the deal alongside of you or 100K or whatever that is. And in order to get into the deal, there's this risk capital, right? There's this, like if you buy a single family house, a traditional house, you need earnest money. So you need to put down 1% of the purchase price to show the seller that you're serious. Well, the same thing applies on commercial real estate. And so you need some money to get into the deal. And then you need some money if things go wrong. Because ideally, if you're in a joint venture, and some of those deals that I did were joint ventures, which just mean a few of us gather together, we all bring our money to the table and we just partner up and get it done. In a joint venture, everybody's going to be equally responsible for bringing additional, or as your agreement states, for bringing additional capital to the table. In a syndication, these larger deals, if you're a general partner, ideally you don't want to go to those limited partners and ask for more money. It happens, but ideally you want to be liquid enough to cover the unforeseen expenses. If there's an increase in insurance, if there's an unforeseen capital expenditure that you didn't forecast, ideally you don't want to have to go back to your limited partners for more cash. So you want to have some liquidity, some cash in your pocket to, overcome those challenges. So that, to me, that's a hard number to put on it. But I wouldn't say have the bare minimum and think that you're going to be okay. I think that's an easy way to get in trouble.
Yep. And I'm seeing that a lot of people join these programs. They're spending 5, 10, 20, 25, $30,000 to get into a program to learn about multifamily, but that's
Mhm.
their last dollar. Then when it comes time to do a deal, they don't have money to invest in the deal. And
Yeah.
so even if they're looking for stuff, it's a challenge. And so my stance has always been, start out with something smaller. The duplex is probably a good place to start, and that's still considered a multifamily. Um, and it kind of moves through a triplex, quad, whatever you can afford to do before getting into the larger deals. Because what a lot of people don't, not only do you need capital to do it, also need to have money that will. I lost my train of thought. Not only do you need capital to put into the deal, but like you said, things come up and stuff happen. There's paperwork that needs to be done. There's different ways to do things, from a single family to a duplex to acquire a joint venture. It's different than doing a syndication, and there's paperwork and finances that are required to put those things together and make sure they're done properly. I've done a couple joint ventures myself, and they were friends and family, so we had no paperwork. But at the end of the day, when those expenditures came up, Devin was the person that was running and doing it and trying to make sure everything came together, that nobody lost money, that the property was taken
Mhm.
care of. And so there's definitely steps and processes that need to be taken when navigating the space. A lot of research and education. I heard you say finding the right partners, making sure that they were aligned with what your goals were, with your risk tolerance. And I think a lot of people miss those things. So I really appreciate you bringing those things out, because obviously I do these interviews every week. And today you said some things that I haven't been said before. So I appreciate that as well. I think it's important that people know those things. And everybody don't always know how to articulate those things and make it, plain. So I truly appreciate you taking the time today. Last thoughts. What would you say to anybody that again wants to get into this space, that's important, or they should know what they should do, when either looking at partners or finding a mentor or coach? Any tips that you would suggest in that area or
Hmm, that's broad, but I would say as far as finding a mentor or coach, make sure again that their product aligns to your learning style. Um, I would say make sure their personality, the number of touch points, do you get to talk exactly to the mentor? Are you talking to some other coaches? How engaged you're going to be in your learning process. Make sure the cost, which I think you mentioned, align to what you have. Don't spend your last, and don't spend the money that you would need to invest. So I think that was a good point that you made. But also, don't let the sticker price be a hindrance, right? If you have the money, um, you should definitely start your journey there. And I would say, just from what I've seen, I don't know if this dates the recording here, but today I think that you can find good content, good resources out there for $50 a month, $100 a month for some of these subscription plans, and then for like the one-time hits, $5,000 to $10,000. Some of these coaches for an entry level course. Right now, you can find stuff that's cheaper, but for entry level, you don't know anything about multifamily. I personally wouldn't spend more than 10 grand right now. Personally, just throwing it out there. There are these other programs out there. And if you are sold on them and you have the cash, go for it. It is what you make it. Um, as far as other steps to take, again, just education, education, education. My mother was an educator. She's still in the schools now, even though she was retired 2 or 3 times. But, just become learners, consistent learners, readers, and networkers. These deals get done based on your network. It is very hard to get things done without a team. I've tried it. It's tremendously slows your path of progress, and you might inch forward, but you really need a solid group of 2 to 3 people that can work alongside you and help you get some of these deals done. And then ideally, you come to the table with different skill sets. So just start getting feelers out there, networking, seeing who has what skill sets, and like start keeping a little Rolodex, Excel spreadsheet, whatever you want to call it, your CRM, of these resources, and stay in constant contact. The other thing is, I would just learn about AI. AI is the buzz right now. I don't think it's going anywhere. It is drastically changing our lives and how business is done as a whole across all platforms, um, real estate, IT, every industry, right? So I would just say keep a pulse on AI and start to play around with it and just understand how it might be impacting the market as a whole, because that's going to impact how you invest. Um, so just again, get savvy, get smart, education first. I think that's my 2 cents.
Man, we're gonna have to do a Tiffany part two. You got so many gems there. We didn't even get to touch on. So we definitely gonna have to do this again, because there are a lot of things that you just said and just that mouthful of what is going on in the market and what people need to pay attention to. And I think it is really important, especially for us getting into these spaces, to understand what these spaces look like, how to successfully play in these spaces, and how to win. So,
Mhm.
and I truly, truly, truly appreciate it. I learned so much today about you,
Thanks for having me, and
and I think
happy
this
to
is
do
gonna
this anytime for you.
oh yeah, we definitely gonna have to do this again because, like I said, you gave so many gems that I think people really need to know and understand about this market before getting into this space and playing at a high level and being successful. So again, truly, I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right.